From Tycoon U Studios in Delray Beach, Florida, this is Options GPS with Chris Rowe and Ron Ianieri.
All right, well, welcome back to Options GPS. I'm Chris Rowe.
And I'm Ron Ianieri.
And the next thing that we're going to learn about are synthetics. And this is going to be key to understanding how option prices work. In fact, when you have an understanding of synthetics, you have a much clearer picture and you start to understand how a call and its corresponding put relate to the stock mathematically. One of the biggest surprises that I see people find in synthetics is they say, well, I'm more comfortable with buying a stock and owning a put option rather than owning a call option, when in fact, in terms of risk and reward, it's exactly the same thing.
That's exactly right. And actually, when you talk to people that say options are risky, you can use the idea of synthetic positions to show them how they're not. Because you take a long stock position, someone who owns stock, how are they going to make that stock position less risky? Well, they're going to buy a put to protect the stock.
Insurance.
Well, when you take that stock position, add a put to it, all you've done is created a call, proving that options are less risky than the stock. And also, there's a couple other things about synthetics that we're going to look at. One of them being that we talked about put-call skew when we talked about volatility. And we said that sometimes two corresponding options, a call and a put, could have different volatilities, creating a little imbalance and an opportunity to make some extra money. Synthetic positions allow us to take advantage of this. And finally, we're going to talk about morphing, taking a position that's not working for us and just making one quick trade and spinning that position around, turning it into something else which will start working for us. Everybody wants to make their losers into winners. We know we can't do that, but at least we can quickly and efficiently spin a bad trade around and get it into a profitable trade.
Come on, Ron, you can do anything. You're telling me you can't take a loser and automatically turn it into a winner?
Well, I said I can. I don't know if they can.
All right, well, first thing, before they even tackle that, you're going to have to learn synthetics. So what I want you to do, go ahead and teach everybody about synthetics, and let's turn everybody into better traders.
You got it. Our next topic in option theory is synthetic positions. Now, one of the things about synthetic positions which is tough for a beginner is that it is a little bit of a, shall we say, sophisticated topic. Normally, people like to leave the sophisticated topics till the end. But unfortunately, this sophisticated topic is a part of option theory that really helps us better understand how different options relate to each other. And when we're trading options, that is something that can't be left to last. We need to know this a little earlier. The vital lesson here that we're going to get out of synthetic positions is that a call is a put and a put is a call. I'm sure that you've probably heard that calls and puts are opposites. One giving you the right to buy, the other giving you the right to sell. That sounds like two things that are opposites. However, that is the only difference between a put and a call. Fact is, a put and a call are much more similar than they are dissimilar. These 5 words here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I got that right. These 5 words here were the first 5 words spoken to me when I started learning options on the floor of the Philadelphia Stock Exchange. A call is a put is a call. What they tried to do is dispel the idea that these two were opposites. And after we go through this section, you'll understand exactly why. The reason that we say a call is a put and a put is a call is because through synthetic positions, you're going to learn how any call can be transformed into its corresponding put. Any put can be transformed into its corresponding call. And believe it or not, any long option can turn into another long option. Short options turn into other short options. Where this becomes really important and where most individual investors are really curious is to position management. adjusting positions. We call it morphing. Without understanding synthetic positions, you will not be able to morph or adjust your positions in a very quick, easy, cost-efficient manner. So let's get started. What is a synthetic position? By definition, a synthetic position is two positions combined together that creates a third. And that third is identical to the real conventional position that you're mimicking. So, we're going to learn how to combine puts and calls to identically mimic a stock position. We're going to learn how to combine puts and stock to identically mimic a call position. And finally, we're going to learn how to combine calls and stock to mimic put positions. Now remember, this is not kind of like. This is identical to the penny at every price level, both risk and reward. Synthetic positions are identical to their real corresponding position. So what are the benefits here? Why am I going to bother learning what everybody considers to be an advanced topic? Why am I bother learning it now, at the beginning? First, understanding synthetic positions is going to allow you to have cost-efficient strategic alternatives. That means that no matter what I want to do, no matter how I want to do it, in the options market, there's at least two ways. That's flexibility. I also have a chance of saving commission costs and bid-ask spreads by not using as many steps to do something, being able to do that same thing with fewer trades. From a standpoint of simple, basic, foundational knowledge and understanding of option theory, synthetic positions show us how we can mathematically relate corresponding calls and puts with the stock. I told you before that options are mathematically based. They're not pure math. It's almost like the same way Tchaikovsky saw music or Mozart saw music. They saw progressions and streams of numbers. But when they played the piano, they didn't come out with binary language. It was music. Trading is basically an art form that's mathematically based. To really understand and become good at the art, you've got to understand the mathematics behind it. This is the mathematics behind it. We also are starting to notice that there's more skews out there than there ever was before. And one of the skews we talked about was something called a put-call skew. And we know that when a call and a put that are corresponding get out of line in terms of their volatility level, there's an advantage there. This shows us how to take advantage of that. What about early exercise? It seems to be a topic that everybody's very concerned about. Everybody always says, oh, what if my calls get exercised early on me? Synthetic positions show us exactly, mathematically, which options are eligible for early exercise and which options aren't. And if you know that an option that you own or that an option that you're short is mathematically viable for early exercise, then you know there's a higher percentage chance of that happening. And when you're prepared for something, it's always a lot better than when it happens and you're not prepared for it. And as I said before, synthetic positions provide the foundational knowledge we need for proper morphing. And what is morphing? Morphing is our ability to take a strategy that we have on now that isn't working because the stock is moving adversely to that position. Morphing allows us to, in one trade, spin that position totally around, getting out of the position that we were losing in and getting us into the right position, a winning position, with one trade. Quick and easy. So why am I bringing up synthetics now? Many of you, some of you that are out there probably have traded options for a while and still don't know or understand synthetics. Why is that? Well, first off, the options market just itself is hot right now. Everybody wants to trade options, and for real good reason. So option terminology, option classes, courses, concepts, anything about options is more in the news today than it ever has been before, at least on the positive side. Options before were in the news whenever something went wrong, whenever it was time to blame somebody for something. Options were the scapegoat. Today, people know that that's not true and see options in a different light because options do remove risk from portfolios. They do enhance profitability. So just because the options market is hot right now, you're going to hear more about synthetic positions. Lower commission costs. There was a point in time where commissions were so high that making one single trade was sometimes cost prohibitive. And in the synthetic positions that we set up, you're going to notice that sometimes we're making 2 trades. 2 trades is a lot more expensive than 1 trade. So why would you ever do 2 trades when you could just do 1 trade? Now there is reason for it. Commissions are incredibly low. They don't even really factor into the game anymore. I mean, a penny and a half a share, $1.50 a contract, that's nothing. So now with these lower commission costs, options, synthetics, positions in options become a lot more viable and valuable. We also now have easier access to all the different exchanges. Before, when you used to go through your broker would concentrate his order flow to one specific exchange, an exchange that he had a relationship with, sometimes ignoring better markets on other exchanges. But recently, not really recently, but in the last several years, we know that now brokers aren't allowed to do that. They must go to the exchange with the best price. That's a rule. More importantly now, you're getting into online trading, aren't you? And you're using online brokers, like my boys at Thinkorswim. You have the ability to direct your order flow where you want, guaranteeing you the best market at all times. Because of that, you getting better markets, you have less worry about bid-ask spread. And because of that, you have a chance of taking better advantage of the put-call skew. Finally, and probably most importantly, the SEC has figured out, after all these years, the true value of options. And what the SEC is now doing is they are starting to approve new, less stringent, less restrictive margining requirements based on you removing risk from your portfolio using options. That means when you use options and you are removing risk, you are actually going to have less margin. Now it's a little slow in coming. I mean, but then again, look at it this way. For 30 years, they didn't do anything like this. Now they're starting to head in that direction. Many of you might have heard of portfolio margining. If your account is so big, you get margined on your risk. At some point in time, they're going to initiate actual risk-based margining, which is going to make synthetics even more valuable. Synthetics even more valuable. Now, we've got 6 basic types of synthetic positions. That's because we have 6 basic positions. We can have a synthetic long stock position or a synthetic short stock position. A synthetic long call or a synthetic short call. A synthetic long put or a synthetic short put. Be sure that you know that a synthetic long stock position will act identically with a real long stock position at every price level. That is important to understand. These positions are identical to the original position at every price level. That's what makes them synthetic, the fact they're identical. Like anything else, the idea of why synthetic positions work is very important. If you have to sit there and try to figure this all out yourself, it would take you a while. And to be honest, after you see the math behind it, and you see that this is actual, factual, mathematically real information, you don't have to worry about how to add all this stuff up. Your platform does it for you. All I'm trying to do is show you the math behind this. When you see the math behind this and you see it work every time, then you'll have the confidence to know that it's a fact. And you don't have to worry about the calculations. You'll just have to focus on how these different synthetic positions are built and use them properly. We won't have to worry about the math after that. One of the first things that we want to talk about here is parity, an option that is trading equally with the stock, an option that is trading with only intrinsic value. The reason I'm bringing up parity here is because an option trading at parity is not necessarily a synthetic position. We were looking at the June 50 calls earlier and some of the things we were looking at, and we saw that the June 50 calls were 100 delta. They matched the stock to 100%. If the stock moved $1, the June 50 calls were moving $1. The only difference between that and a real synthetic position is that at some point in time, those June 50 calls won't match the stock dollar for dollar. If you woke up one morning and that stock that was trading at $65.50 was going to open at $30, your June 50 calls would no longer be 100 delta. They would no longer match the stock dollar for dollar, penny for penny. An option that is simply at parity is said to be trading like the stock. That doesn't mean it's synthetically equivalent to the stock. Why? Because it won't be 100% matching at every price level. At $30, it wouldn't match anymore, would it? Thus, it's not a synthetic position. So what we're really looking at here is a concept called put-call parity. And what put-call parity means is in the same way the definition of parity states, it's an option that's trading with only intrinsic value. It is said to be trading equally or at parity to the stock. When we talk about put-call parity, we are saying that the price of the put and the price of the call combined is trading at parity or equally to the stock. Why? Because I can use a combination of a put and its corresponding call to create synthetically a stock position. So there's an actual mathematical relationship, real numbers that relate and connect a put, its corresponding call, and the stock price all together. So what we want to look at first is the base formula. And this base formula is simply the call price minus the put price equals the stock price minus the strike price. Couple things behind this. Number one, the put and the call must be in a 1-to-1 ratio. You can't buy 20 of the June 50 calls and sell 10 of the June 50 puts. They must be in a 1-to-1 ratio. Secondly, it only applies to corresponding options. If we're looking at synthetic positions and we are talking about synthetics, it must be corresponding options. And remember, this is a theoretical concept. In theory, two corresponding options, a put and a call, should trade at the same volatility level. Why? Because they have the same amount of time to expiration. If we're looking at May options, the put and its corresponding call will both expire on the same day. They will be influenced by the volatility of the stock in the identical manner until expiration. Now, we know that should work in theory. We also know that theory sometimes doesn't apply to the markets. We know that we have to actually look at what really goes on in the markets in reality. And we know that there are put-call skews in the real markets. But from a theoretical standpoint, these two options should trade at the same volatility. And if we don't have a put-call skew in there, and we keep these things equal, this formula works every time. So what does this base formula do? What it does is it exploits a couple different relationships between a call and its corresponding put. The first one is the extrinsic value relationship between a call and a corresponding put. What we know here is a call and its corresponding put, after adjusted for interest and dividend, will have the same amount of extrinsic value. And we saw in that formula, we saw call minus put. If by chance the call's extrinsic value is the same as the put's extrinsic value, and we're buying one, selling the other, then the two extrinsic values, one being now a positive, the one we bought, the other being a negative, the one they sold, they should cancel each other out. That formula, the left side of it, eliminates the difference between the extrinsic values of the put and call, thus exposing simply the intrinsic value. So the formula creates a situation where we offset the extrinsic value of the two corresponding options. The intrinsic value relationship between a put and its corresponding call, we know. We know that a put and its corresponding call, one of them is in the money, the other must be out of the money. That means one will have intrinsic value, the other won't. So if we eliminate or offset the extrinsic value between these two corresponding options, one of them is going to now be 0, the other is going to have a value. That value is from the option that has intrinsic value. So what we have here is an extrinsic value offset and two conflicting intrinsic values, one being that the option that was out of the money has none, the other being the option that was in the money has it all. And that is what that formula does. It strips the two options' extrinsic values out, exposing simply just the intrinsic value. Now remember, when I said that after adjusted for interest and dividend, the extrinsic values of two corresponding options, as long as they are both at the same volatility level, will be the same. How do interest and dividend play into this? First, what we have to understand is when we're talking about interest and dividend, these two things are lumped together under a certain terminology which option traders call cost of carry. How much does it cost me to carry this position? When we look at how interest and dividend affect option prices, we have to realize that they don't do it directly. Interest and dividend do not directly affect option prices. What they do is they affect the price of the stock. And the stock affects the price of the option. Remember, that was an input. So if one of my inputs is going to be affected, that in turn is going to affect my option price. How does the stock become affected by interest and dividend? First off, anytime we buy stock, what do? We take money that's in our account earning interest, we take it out of there, and we replace it with the shares of stock. They don't collect interest. What did we just do? We gave up the amount of money we were collecting in interest for the hope of capital appreciation of a stock that we purchased. So when we buy stock, we actually lose the incoming interest that we would have gained had we not bought the stock and left the money in the bank. What about dividends? Well, when we own the stock, we collect a dividend. So when we own a stock, we're actually losing interest but gaining a dividend. When we look at it the other way, being short the stock, the other happens. When we short a stock, sell the stock short, money hits our account from the short sale. That money that goes into our account starts earning interest. Interest that we would not have collected had we not shorted the stock and money came into the account to earn the interest. Meanwhile, if we're short the stock, we would owe the dividend. So short stock collects interest, but owes the dividend. Any synthetic position that we use must be adjusted for interest and dividend, because in our synthetic position, one of the components might be a long stock position. In our synthetic position, one of our components might be a short stock position. And that, being short the stock or being long the stock, is going to affect our price. It's something we need to adjust for if we're using stock in our synthetic position. Thus, our little formula has to include that adjustment in it. Now, if we didn't have that adjustment, we would have an arbitrage. The put and call would trade out of line. Obviously, everybody would like to short the stock and collect the interest. Not a problem giving up the dividend. There's an advantage to shorting the stock, and that is the collection of interest. So, as a review, long stock acquires the dividend but loses interest. The interest must be added back into the stock to adjust for that loss, and the dividend must be stripped out to adjust for the dividend coming in. Short stock acquires interest but owes the dividend. When we adjust our short stock positions, we must subtract back out the interest that we were getting and add back in the dividends that we would have been losing. So that's how we're going to address the adjustment of interest and dividend. That's why it's got to occur. Remember, interest and dividend together equal cost of carry. The base formula that we saw earlier must be adjusted. And this is how we adjust it. We used to have call price minus put price equals stock price minus strike price. Now, adjusted for interest and dividend, the formula reads call price minus put price equals stock price minus strike price plus interest minus dividend. And I guarantee this works every time. You have a set of sheets at home. I want you to grab sheet number 1. And we're going to go through an example. I'm not even going to use the sheets. You have them in your hands. Let's take a look at the stock trading at $65.50. So run your finger across the top to where the stock price says $65.50. And then come down to where you run into the cross section, which is June 65s. What you should find is the June 65 call value is $2.04. The put value, June 65 puts with the stock at $65.50, should be $1.48. According to this formula, that should equal the stock price, $65.50, minus the strike price, which we know is $65, plus interest minus dividend. If you want to calculate your interest, all you need to do is grab your calculator and just do a simple interest rate formula, and you will find what your total interest rate is. I also have another way of doing that, a quick way, but you're going to have to go to the website and watch my video on calculating the interest in any given month at any given strike. It's only going to be on the website. I'm not doing it here. You ready? 204 minus $1.48. What does that equal? I come up with what? You got a calculator? What do you come up with? I come up with 56 cents. 65.50 minus 65. Plus 6 cents. Minus 0 dividend. Wow, that equals 56 too, doesn't it? 56 equals 56, doesn't it? Huh, that worked. Now, taking this formula, knowing the numbers, I can solve for any one of the call price, put price, or stock price with this formula. If I know interest and dividend, and I know either the call price and the put price, or the call price and the stock price, or the put price and the stock price, I can solve for the missing one. And I guarantee the math will add up to the same price that you see on your sheets. Let's solve for stock. Obviously, we have to add a little algebra to the equation to get the stock on one side of the equation. There we go. Stock price equals call price minus put price plus stock price, strike price, minus interest plus dividend. Let's see. Let's use our June 65s again. Stock at 65.50. Stock price will equal the call price, $2.04, minus the put price, $1.48, plus the strike price is 65, minus interest, 6 cents, plus dividend, which there is none in this case. 204 minus $1.48 plus 65 is what? I'm doing this in my head, people. Give me a second. Is what? 56 cents, isn't it? 65.50. 65.56 minus 6 cents, 65.50. What's our stock price on the sheets? With these values there, 65.50. Works every time. Do a couple at home. Stay in June where the interest is 6 cents. Solving for call price. Again, we're going to have to throw some algebra in here to get call price isolated on this side. Call price equals stock price minus strike price plus put price plus interest minus dividend. We don't know what the call price is, but we do know the strike price and the stock price and the put price. Stock is 65.50. Minus the strike price of 65 gives us what? 50 cents. Plus $1.48, which is the put price. That gives us $1.98. Plus interest, which is 6 cents, gives us $2.04. Check your sheets. We know the call price is $2.04. It adds up perfectly, doesn't it? So if I don't know the call price, I can use the stock price, the strike price, put price, interest, and dividend to calculate the call price to the penny. Solving for the put price, we could do that too, huh? Obviously, throwing a little algebra on here, we come up with put price equals call price plus strike price minus stock price minus interest plus dividend. Sounds like a lot, but it really isn't. We don't know what the put price is, but we know everything else. Call price at 204 plus the strike price of 65. That gives us 67.05 minus 65.50. That gives us what? $1.54 minus 6 cents, which is the interest, gives us $1.48. No dividend. What's the value of the put? $1.48. So we can solve for any one of these different options or even the stock price knowing all these components. And try it at home because it works every time. This means we can actually use a put and a call to create long stock. Not just a position that's kind of like long stock. I'm talking about a position that will act identically to long stock. A position that matches it penny for penny, both risk and reward, at every price level. How do we do that? Easy. We buy a call and we sell the corresponding put in a 1-to-1 ratio. This position will act identically to a long stock position. You might say, well, I can't see how that's possible. Well, the first thing we have to look at is the Greeks of the two positions. If we can look and see that the Greeks of these two positions are identical, it means that these two positions will react to different variables in the identically same way. What does that tell us? It tells us if they have the same Greeks and they're going to react identically to changes, then the two positions are moving identically. We also need to talk about risk and reward. That's great that both positions are identical and they're reacting identically, but the proof is in the pudding says that both have to make and lose the exact same amount of money at the exact same price levels. That's the difference between a synthetic position and an option that's trading at parity. The option that's trading at parity will not perform identically to the stock at every price level. The synthetic long stock position will. If you chart both of these two positions, a long stock position and a synthetic long stock position, you will see the charts come up and they will be identical. You can do this right on your Thinkorswim platform. Put in buy 100 shares of stock and look at your P&L chart. Print it out. When you're done that, go back in, take the 100 shares out, and replace it with a long synthetic stock position. How do we do that? Pick a strike, buy the call, sell the put in a 1-to-1 ratio. Then run your P&L chart. You will see that the two charts will be identical at every level. Let's compare the two. Let's take a look at the actual long stock position, and we're going to compare it to the synthetic long stock position. So an actual long stock position, we're going to buy 100 shares at $65.50. Stock rises to $67.50. That's a positive P&L of $200, right? We're long 100 shares, up $2. We made $200. Well, if our synthetic long stock position is truly identical, then up $2, we should make the same $200. Now, all these numbers that you're about to see are coming off the trading sheets that you have. So grab your trading sheets and follow me step by step. I'm going to give you 3 seconds to have your trading sheets in hand. Now that you have your trading sheets in hand, we're going to look at the synthetic long stock position. We know that to create synthetic long stock, we first need to buy a call. And since we're buying one, that will match up with the 100 shares. So we're going to buy the June 65 call at $2.04. We also need to sell the corresponding put in a 1-to-1 ratio. June 65 put, we're selling at $1.48. Now, just like in our actual long stock position, the stock trades up the same $2. Look at your sheets at $67.50 in the stock for June and go to the June 65 calls. You'll notice that your June 65 call was worth $2.04 when the stock was at $65.50. But now at $67.50, you're going to see what? $3.34. The call has increased in value from $2.04 to $3.34, giving you a $1.30 profit. But that's not all. We still have the put position to look at. We sold the put for $1.48 when the stock was where? $65.50. Now that the stock is up at $67.50, the value of the put has declined to 77 cents. That gives us a 71-cent profit in the put. Add them together, we've got a $201 profit. Now you might ask, where did that extra $1 come from? Well, remember, when the model calculates these prices, it doesn't just calculate out to 100. It sometimes calculates out to 10,000th place. What is this? Rounding. It's a rounding error. Remember, the model is not perfect. Hey, that just matched identically on a profit side. But I said that they have to match identically at every price level. Let's take a look at a losing situation. I'm sure none of you have ever seen a loss, but we're going to use it as an example anyway. Let's say the stock that we buy 100 shares at 65. What about short synthetic stock? Instead of being long the call and short the put, which is long stock, let's do the opposite. Let's become long the put and short the corresponding call. Again, 1-to-1 ratio must be corresponding options. The Greeks, again, are going to be identical. That means both will react the same way to changes in the variables. If they both act the same way to the changes in the variables, then both will have the same price changes at every different price level. That means they have to be identical. Risks and rewards. You're going to see that both make and lose the same amount of money at every single price level. Look at the two charts. Go into your Thinkorswim platform and short 100 shares of stock. Make sure you're doing this on your paper trading account, please. This is educational only. I don't want you just shorting a stock and finding out you just made or lost money because you didn't have any idea what you were just doing. Go into your paper trading. Put in short 100 shares and take a look at your P&L chart. If you have to, print it out. After you do that, go back in, remove the short 100 shares, and create a synthetic short stock position. Buy a put, sell its corresponding call 1-to-1. Print out that chart. Compare the two. They will be identical. Well, now that we saw that our actual short stock position and our synthetic short stock position made the same amount of money, we've got to see if it loses the same amount of money. So let's put on our actual short stock position by what? Selling 100 shares at $65.50. And let's have the stock now trade up to $67.50. What are we going to see? We're going to see a loss, aren't we? A loss of $200. Short 100 shares, up against us $2. Total P&L, minus $200. If our synthetic short stock position is identical, then it should lose the same amount of money that our actual short stock position lost with the stock trading up. Let's set up our short stock position. First, we want to sell one June 65 call at $2.04. Follow me on your sheets. Sheet number 1, stock price $65.50. Take a look at what the June 65 call is, 204. We're selling one of them, and we're buying the corresponding put, the June 65 put, and we're going to buy that for $1.48. Now, when the stock trades up to $67.50, all you got to do is move your finger over one place. You're now at a stock price of $67.50. Let's take a look at what this call and put does. First, our call is going to rise in value from 204 to 334. But we're short that call. The value rise leaves us with a $1.30 loss. The put that we purchased went down against us. It was $1.48 when we purchased it, but it's now only worth 77 cents with the stock up at $67.50. Lost $1.30 from the call, lost 71 cents from the put. What do we have? Total P&L of $200. Both positions lost the same amount of money at the exact same price level. Why? Same reason as when we looked at the long synthetic stock situation. Here, our real position, short 100 shares, gives us short 100 deltas. We know that stock has no gamma, no vega, no theta. Over on our synthetic situation here, our synthetic position, we acquired short 44 deltas from our long put. We buy a put, it's a negative instrument, we acquire negative deltas. We acquired short 56 deltas from the short call. Call being a positive instrument, we sold it. Negative times a positive equals a negative. Negative delta. We remember our the absolute value of a call's delta plus the absolute value of the corresponding put delta equals 100. Remember that? Here it is again. Short 44 deltas from our long put, short 56 deltas from our short call. Add them together, we're short 100 deltas, just like we would be in our real short stock position. Now we've got to look at gamma, theta, and vega. What do we know about these three? They are strike-based Greeks. What does that mean? Because they're strike-based, they don't see the difference between put and call. They are calculated based upon the month and strike. That means two corresponding options, a call and a put, with the same month and same strike, will have the same gamma, the same theta, and the same vega. When we look at our synthetic position, being long the put and short the call, corresponding options, we see that numerically we should have the same numbers for gamma, the same numbers for theta, and the same numbers for vega. And we do. The difference here being is that we're long one option, short the other. Our long option is going to give us long gamma. The short option will give us short the gamma. Since numerically they're the same, one long, one short, what do? They cancel each other out. When they cancel each other out, this position leaves us with no gamma, just like the stock position. Theta, same thing. Numerically, corresponding options, they'll have the same theta. One's going to be short, the other long. Why? When we buy an option, we're losing money as time goes by. We're short theta. The other option, we're short. As time goes by, we're collecting money off that short option. It's collecting the decay. Gives a long theta. Short theta, long theta, same numbers, one long, one short, cancel each other out. And we know what's going to happen here with vega. Same thing, strike-based Greek, corresponding options, numerically the same. Buy one option, we acquire long vega. Sell the other, we acquire short vega. Same number, one positive, one negative, cancels. This position here, when we look at gamma, theta, and vega, has none. It only has a delta position, short 100 delta, just like the real stock position.